All right, let's get to it.
Okay.
Just to appease the haters, the non-donut eaters. I don't try like if I met you and you said, "Listen, I will never eat a donut," I'd be like, "I don't trust you.
They shouldn't be trusted.
You're a communist." I don't know what kind of evil dictatorship you grew up under, but in this country, we eat donuts, damn it. That's what I think. So, Ross Dellinger had this. Group of 6 realignment hinges on the Pac-12 landing a package of Memphis, Tulane, and USF. And Memphis kind of controls the fate right now because they haven't quite decided what they're going to do.
Right.
But the belief is that they will all go together or not go at all. Because doing this for Memphis, Tulane, and USF means that they're upping their travel budgets for everything, right? Yes. They're taking that on. They have to know that it's going to be good. Like there's going to be a lot of things they're not going to make money on, even less that they don't make money on it now, because now your teams have to go across the country. The road trips are longer. You're breaking a contract with the AAC. The AAC is viewed as the best, non-power conference. So do you really want to do that to go for the brand name of the Pac-12? Is this really going to be better? And that, I think, is a reasonable step to take. Figure out, is the new Pac-12 going to be any different for you than the AAC?
But that's a great question, but how would you truly know until you hear like TV negotiation rights or what the Pac-12 is going to be on? I don't think that you can really truly understand that until that all comes out, but I think you're kind of banking on it if you're any of those programs that you will be able to be recognized as a power conference and generate more money. Also think it would be good for all of those programs because that would stave off some of the robbing of your roster. If you have a team where you're actually you're considered a power program and you have more money going into it, you can keep your talent. Also, like, what would that do to the American at that point? Like, would that force the American and Mountain West to kind of look at a merger type thing?
I don't know
that it's totally, but it kind of seems like geography's out the window at that point,
so,
right?
Yeah, the geography's done.
It's done.
The geography's done for everybody. I mean, geography was done when this happened the last round.
Yeah.
Like Stanford and Cal and the ACC.
That's all you need to know.
That's it. Like that means geography is not the important thing. And I can't wait for the inevitable time where they back off of this and then it's just football and basketball that are doing this, and everybody else is in like leagues like that make sense.
Like they used to be,
because you can't, make that much money on softball going from Washington State to Memphis
That's stupid,
to Tampa to all these other places, to New Orleans and that. But it is very interesting that they have, according to Ross, decided like we're in this together. Mm-hmm. So the three of us, because we're the ones who are wanted in the American. And here's the other thing. The American has always been has been able to withstand this. But if they lose these three,
it's like, who are you going to grab? Like, they've always been able to rebound by grabbing somebody else, or you know. But like at this point, who are you going to get?
But that would leave the conference at UTS. Like here, if they left and say they do get Air Force,
right.
So they trade these three and get Air Force, Army, Navy, Air Force, East Carolina, North Texas, Charlotte, Rice, Tulsa, UAB, UTSA, Florida Atlantic, and Temple. And there's no guarantee. And I almost would bet that if there was a fourth school to go, that one of those would be from Texas.
It
would be UTSA or North Texas.
Yeah.
would go to the Pac if those other ones left.
Well, and I think right now, I mean, you got to look at UTSA, and while they're the younger program, I think they have the better trajectory because you've seen what North Texas has been able to do as long as they've been playing football. I mean, this is about what they're going to be. I think UTSA has more promise at the point in time. But no, it only makes sense to get into Texas. And if you're already going to be traveling past the state, you get some people in a similar time zone where UTSA doesn't have to travel out west and everything, and you can package it up where they go and play your Tulanes and them. I just want this to finally be settled and us to have some clarity on it, honestly. But anytime, if any of those programs are able to make that jump and they can increase and make their be more stable and create more revenue for them, hats off. I think it's good for the Pac. I'm just glad that they're able to kind of get this in motion. But like, my thing is, what is UAB's stance in all this? Because it seems like they're, to me, when I look at UAB, it's like where USF used to be a few years ago, or Memphis used to be. Like, they have a coach in there. They know what they want to do. They're in a market that's, I mean, Birmingham is legit. So, like, I wonder how long it's going to take UAB to finally get everything in place where they could be the next team in the next wave to come up and make some clarity and a push for themselves. But
yeah, look, they're projecting, the Pac-12 is projecting $12 to $15 million per school, which is more money for all these schools.
Right.
So they would require at least a 5-year grant of rights and performance-based concept, kind of like what Florida State's pushing in Clemson. But the reasons...
That could work better with them, though.
Yeah.
Because that would be more competitive balance. I think that would be fun to have like a...
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a new conference.
Yeah.
There's no history to this.
Yeah.
This is completely new. This is not like Oregon State and Washington State. This isn't like USC and Oregon were the only ones left, right? Or USC, and Washington were the only ones left and everybody else left, and they just stayed and waited. These are the two smallest programs in the league that are rebooting themselves.
So in that window, with that 5-year window, would that money they're making, would that come off of what Washington State and Oregon State got from the Pac?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so here's the reasons that Ross lists to not do it.
Right.
Travel cost would be about $2 million annually. And it goes beyond TV money and TV visibility. They're carried nationally in the AAC with a long-term deal with ESPN. So who's the Pac-12 deal with?
Yeah.
Like, what they don't have, like right now, it's Fox, ESPN, Apple, CW, TNT, Amazon, like, and it's probably a combination of a lot of things, you would think. Mm-hmm. But, and does this, in fact, that's the thing the Pac-12 doesn't really answer, right? Is, okay, so it's not just going to be a power conference because you say it is.
Right. That's what's confusing me this whole time.
Like, you can't, it's not like you can just walk in and be like, I would like you guys to call me Viper from now on.
Right.
You'd be like, why? And you're like, because I feel like I'm a Viper. And you're like, you're not Viper. Like, that's not, we're not calling you Viper. And then all of a sudden your name is like Egg Fart or something. And you're going to be Egg Fart and not Viper. So you don't want to be that. Like, that's going to get clipped, I know. And somebody's going to say this is a ridiculous analogy. But you can't just say you're something. Like, the thing is, everybody has to accept that you're that thing.
Right, yeah.
So the other 4 power conferences right now are not eager to just say, hey, you know what? We don't like the term Power 4. We'd like to get back to Power 5.
But I don't understand.
They're not motivated to just extend that olive branch.
But my thing is, like, if ESPN or if Fox or anybody wanted these brands or wanted these teams, then they would have been on the same level in the first place. I don't understand how you can grab a bunch of teams that were left behind or left for dead that the TV networks didn't even want to scoff at, and they'd expect them to respect it because you have a Pac-12 name. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, and look, this might be better because the competitive nature of the league will go up.
Well, the league itself will be fun, but like as a whole, I don't know how you got any respect.
Like, does it get you closer to a power conference? That's a question they can't answer.
Right.
And it's the only way you can answer it is by, getting the Pac-12 together, getting teams in the playoff, and winning playoff games.
And
that's
good luck
the
with
only way. Yeah, and good luck. Like, do you know who's sweating that? Everybody that's not named the SEC and Big Ten.
Honestly, at the SEC. At this point, like, the Big Ten has 2 or 3 teams. It's going to be the SEC and like 2 Big Ten teams.
Yeah. The Big Ten's just not worried about it because they position themselves to mask it. But like, the SEC is just not worried. Like, there's never going to be a point where they're like, oh darn, we don't how are we going to get into this thing?
Yeah.
Like it's all been created for them.
Yep.
Right. The Big Ten, the same thing, but the ACC and Big 12 are. I mean, they're looking. Both of those conferences this year are looking at the reality of the SEC and Big 12 and the G5 team. All like those are the three, like automatic. Like they get their automatic qualifiers and no one else.
Right.
So let's just say Miami wins the ACC, Kansas State wins the Big 12, and Boise State is the Group of 5 representative. Then you're going to have Georgia and Texas and Ohio State and Penn State, Tennessee and Oregon, and like so the rest of the 9 teams will be filled up by those 2 leagues. 5 and 4 or 6 and 3, and right now it's looking like it's 6 and 3.
It's looking like 6. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, it's looking like it's 6 and 3, and Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State from the Big Ten, or USC, like one of those teams. USC, I think they've got a bullet. I think they're on the way up.
I think they beat Michigan. I think that helped, even though Michigan's down, but the perception, yeah.
But then if you look at, okay, so let's say there's 3, all right? So of those 4, take 3. And then Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama. Yeah, maybe you do 5 and 4. Like
maybe.
But that's who it is, right? Because after that, the SEC gets a little bit more.
You don't got to worry about Notre Dame. They're done for this year.
Well, yeah, okay, and then but that's also the other thing.
That's another. Yeah,
that's going to take away one from somebody. But yeah, so but Notre Dame, you say that because they lost to Northern Illinois.
They can.
But if they go 11 and 1,
or something.
if they go 11 and 1, then they're in.
Yeah.
If that's USC's 1 or 2, then USC's in. That's just how it. And that I think that's a good thing. Where like we're not punishing people for 1 or 2 losses. Right. You start to punish them when they get to their 3rd. But the bottom line is this is. So how do you get to that if you're the Pac-12? Like how do you make sure that you're in it or you get recognized at it? And you might be making, you'll be making more money than the other leagues and all of that. So that's good. So maybe you get there over the finish line more than the others. And to say this is, look, San Diego State is pretty committed to being a better athletic department, facilities and all that. Washington State and Oregon State are clearly in this to win it. They really want to stick around. Boise State's been excellent for 20 years now.
And they want to, yeah.
And they want this.
It means something.
They really want this. They want it. Not that everybody doesn't, but
they want it more than Stanford.
Yeah. Well, Stanford's too busy saving the world, or making billions of dollars, not saving it. Depending on your view of the people that come out of it. But yeah, all of that. Like there's. So I don't know. Like I think there's room here, to Fresno State has always been a really competitive team. So like all these things make sense. UNLV, we got to figure out who they are, like where they really want to be and what that's going to happen if they get there. But, the teams that make sense right now, to me, the 3 we mentioned, Memphis, Tulane, and USF. And then throw in UTSA, North Texas, UNLV, and Nevada. Like those all make some sort of sense to me as this expands. I don't know. Like how big do you want to be? How big do you want to make the conference? How many conference games do you want to play? Right now, like it's going to be harder and harder to schedule non-conference games. So I might want to play as many conference games as I could each and every year. But you got to get to at least 8, and they're still 2 away from that. Moving on, because we got to get to Grayson here in a minute. We've had Joe Moglia here on the show a couple times, and Mitt Winter posted this, and this was a statement from Joe Moglia, who's a really, really, really smart dude who's been a coach, an administrator, a CEO on, a Fortune 500 company. Love talking to Joe Moglia. So he was talking about the NCAA. The NCAA has repeatedly lost in court on NIL. A much ballyhooed settlement is in grave peril following Judge Claudia Wilkins' call for the parties to go back to the drawing board. The collapse of the settlement would be an existential threat to the NCAA, and yet all the organization's spending on high-cost attorneys has failed to yield results. If the CEO of a major company set cash on fire like this, he or she would be sent packing and the board would be in crisis mode. but the NCAA gets special treatment because it pretends to be a nonprofit that protects young athletes. Yet what kind of nonprofit generates $1.26 billion in TV revenue? In reality, the NCAA drains money from the system, spends hundreds of millions protecting itself, and delivers little value to its member organizations or student athletes. The purpose of the NCAA has become the perpetuation of the NCAA, not the protection of student athletes and universities. And I will just say this. Thank you, Joe Moglia. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
They're not worried about, and the universities are stuck in this because the universities are the NCAA. So it's this snake eating itself over and over and over again when they need to go back to the drawing board. And Joe Moglia had a system that he laid out for us that was basically, you just tell everybody what level they want to be, which is kind of what we heard from the Southern Conference Commissioner this week. Everybody decides what they want to be. The Power 4 conferences, that's who you are. And then if you want to be that and you want to commit that kind of revenue and do these things, then there's a pathway for you to be that. But you have to decide to hit these standards. And then if you decide that you can't be that, then we're going to have a home for you. There's a different thing. Because the more we pretend like everybody's playing the same game right now, the further apart the gap is going to be.
Yep.
And the less competitive it's going to be. Because as we've seen from the SEC in particular, they are not interested in helping anybody else out.
Nope.
Greg Sankey can talk about the long-term future and how he cares about college athletics. His words say one thing, but the recent actions say another thing. You know, and everybody we talk to says, well, I believe he does. It's like, well, he hasn't done one single thing that makes me think that. No. So,
I mean, I kind of get it. Like
that's his job.
No, yeah, absolutely.
That's his job. So if that's his job and that's the reality, let's deal with the reality and not the hope of it.
My thing is, like, at some point, if you can't find somebody who can counteract this, like, why wouldn't you just put, like, Greg Sankey in charge of college football?
Well, he essentially is.
No, but I mean, like, legitimately put him in charge to say, make everybody the SEC. Like, 'cause he's obviously got the blueprint.
Yeah. Zachary Troutman, $20 super chat. I hate the national narrative for the new teams being realignment. I get it, but it just all contributes to the empowerment of the Big Two. The Big 12's moves were scrutinized last year, and all it did was make it look worse. And then another super chat from John. Pac-12 should play 10 conference games, more money. So
I would like to see the Pac get at least 12 teams, 10 to 12, and go at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would too. I would too. Thank you for the super chats.
Yep.
Brandon Marcello on Billy Napier. Who holds the power to hire the next coach? They have been told, after I sent you this, there was another one, that Scott Strickland will make the hire.
What?
That he's the AD. Now, here's the thing, though. Florida has just lost. He resigned their president, Ben Sass.
Okay.
He left the Senate. He was a senator from Nebraska. He left the Senate to take the job as president of the University of Florida. He left for what was personal reasons, family reasons. But in the aftermath of this, people have been auditing the amount of money he was spending.
Oh, so Urban Meyered it.
Yeah. Audited the amount of money he was spending for parties and fundraisers.
Imagine that.
And he's come back with like, no. We needed to spend $83,000 on sushi or $38,000 on sushi, something like that. All these itemized bills are coming out and not making him look very good. He wrote a book I really liked when he was a senator called The Vanishing American Adult. And I feel like he got a little used to the money and somebody not paying for things. That's what happens when you're in Congress. That's what happens when you're in Congress. You don't you're never gonna see a senator pick up a bill ever. You know, like, oh no. This coffee's on me.
We pick up their bills.
Yeah, exactly.
We pick their bills up.
Yeah, exactly. In one way or another,
yes.
we do. And so they don't have a full-time president right now. They've got an interim president who used to be president. And the reason they liked him when he was president in the athletic department is he let him run the show. He's not an athletics guy.
Right.
So Scott Strickland is kind of lucky here because he's gone 0 for 3 or 0 for 2 on football hires, and he gets to make a third one now. Mm-hmm. And Scott Strickland was a really, really well thought of AD when he came in. I don't think this is all on him. I think this is administrative. Later in the show, the top 5 is about how Florida got to this point from being a superpower. Like Urban Meyer had them at the pinnacle.
Yeah, he did.
And I'll tell you this, I don't say a disparaging word about anyone from those teams in the video. I'm very proud of myself. I think it's personal growth.
I think it is too.
It's maturity.
It's small accomplishments.
But I'll just tell you, I feel mature today. But yes, so, but he'll get to make the next hire. Rapid fire and a couple other things.
Hold on. Do you want to do the Dan Mullen video real quick?
I'll just say it. Say it. We don't have to play it. Zach Gelb, who's on our show almost every week, couldn't do this week. He interviewed Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen told Scott Strickland to hire Lane Kiffin. I kind of feel like if he had, they wouldn't be in the spot right now.
Probably not. But at this point, I don't know. With as much of a mess as Florida has been, I don't know how much better of a job it would be for Lane. Like, Lane has put in a lot of time at Ole Miss making that program relevant. Like, it's never truly been relevant, and Lane Kiffin has it rolling right now. Why would you want to go and do that again somewhere else? I know you would have Lagway, quote unquote, have Lagway. We don't know, but that's what I'm saying. We don't know. But like, I wouldn't, if I was Lane, I would stay at Oxford and kind of keep this thing rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. From Pro Football Talk, the Pro Coach Prime Effect isn't drawing TV crowds like it did a year ago. Viewership of the Buffaloes down 51% over the first 3 games of the season. And when you're not good, you're not going to get viewers. Like, nope. the celebrity's worn off. So they are not an automatic TV home run now, although they still get good numbers. They just don't get the kind of numbers they did last year, which were getting SEC numbers.
Well, they got exposed. Like, you know what you're getting with Colorado. You can't just say we're going to go and win national championship. Like, bro, block first.
Yeah. Last thing before we get to Grayson Grudhafer in the next segment. Shohei Ohtani is we are living in the Babe Ruth times for this generation. We have to appreciate it. Guys like this, Jordan, Tiger Woods, Muhammad Ali, Babe Ruth, like, they come around like once in a generation. And for baseball, this guy's a once-in-a-century talent. Mm-hmm. There have been great players. There's great players right now. Aaron Judge and Bobby Witt Jr. are having unbelievable seasons, completely overshadowed right now by this. Yep. Because Ohtani yesterday, as he went 50-50 to become the first player in Major League Baseball history to do this. And I know it's not college football, everybody, but I love baseball, but like, let's just enjoy the moment we're in right now, because I sometimes think we don't do that. We didn't enjoy Tiger Woods' run enough. I know that for a fact. We didn't enjoy that.
I didn't enjoy Kobe's enough.
Yeah, we didn't enjoy Kobe's. Yeah, Kobe, I enjoyed the hell out of Michael Jordan's, but I was a kid. You know, these athletes come along once in a while. Ohtani, 6 for 6 yesterday, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, and a 20-4 win over the Marlins. The first Major League Baseball player with a 50-50 season. The first Major League Baseball player with 3 home runs and 2 stolen bases in a game. So he didn't fit, like, he wasn't at 50-50 yet. He wasn't at 50 in either of them and got there in that game. 10 RBIs, most in the game by a Dodger, and most out of the leadoff spot since 1920. Second player with 6 hits in a game with 5 for extra bases. 13 games this season with a home run and a stolen base, tied for most in Major League Baseball history. 51 home runs is the most ever by a Dodger, and that organization's been around for a long time. 28 straight stolen bases without being caught, and this dude is huge. This is like Otis Nixon, who's like a little fast guy. Tied third longest streak by a Dodger and a career high hits of 6 RBIs and home runs in a game yesterday. That is greatness. And let's all jump on board and appreciate it.